This is going to be a first look at the Ravens pass game and what went wrong, so to say, as the game developed, particularly as you progress past the second possession. It's interesting. There's not one singular thing that went wrong. There's a, a multitude of small things that seem to fall apart quickly at different times. Sometimes it was pressure. Sometimes it was a receiver not breaking off his route. Sometimes it was a drop pass. Sometimes it was Lamar throwing the ball behind a guy in man coverage. Sometimes it was Lamar maybe staring down one receiver too quickly. And sometimes it was just bad play calls. We're going to take a look at, I think, 10 plays here. The possessions will be marked. I'll try to get through these as quickly as possible, to be honest with you. I'm interested to see what content people want to watch after the Ravens lost. This is going to be first possession completion to Flowers, 3rd and 6. A bunch speed out to Flowers up to the top side. You got what looks like a cover 2 zone to me. 2 safeties here. Other 5 defenders in almost a nice straight line here. I'm trying to show the coverage for as many of these as possible. There'll be a larger point that I make later on about split field coverage, as I've said this for a couple years, that I think it's what a lot of people play against us and what a lot of people show Lamar to make him have to read things post-snap, and it's not something that's solely designed to stop Lamar or slow him down, slow his processing down. It's used against a lot of quarterbacks. In this case, this is a hard-coded coverage, meaning you've got cover 2. It's the same coverage to both sides of the field, which is why it's not described as a split field coverage. In any case, completion to Flowers. Luckily, we get credit for the 6 yard there, even though it looks like we got 5.5. A couple of plays later, or actually next play, I think, 1st and 10, first possession, Flowers for 9 yards. Cover 3, if you ask me. So you've got cover 2 and cover 3 of consecutive possessions. Lamar happens to be looking to Flowers' side here, which is where the ball goes, and it's a big completion. Bateman is open on the same exact route to the other side. People are too reactionary now. This is not to say the ball should be thrown to Bateman. This is saying whichever side the quarterback picks to look at here, he's got both guys open. Now, there is something to be said about the timing of Lamar looking places and us not looking to the other side ever. And there's a couple of attempts that he makes, I think, in the second quarter, he being Lamar, to look to one side immediately and then come back to the other. Whether he's reading anything or not, I think he's just trying to show the defense his face mask and hold defenders on the backside as long as we can. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. First possession still, as we progress downfield, 21-yard completion to Likely up the right side. We used to call this a busted cover 3, but the Colts do this 3 times in this game, so this must be what they're doing to tight end into the boundary. I don't think it's sound. I think you've got a man turn here, and everybody else is playing cover 3. We used to call this a busted cover 3. You got the running back potential in the flats. You got Likely up the seam. And then you've got Flowers working his way up the sideline. I don't think it's sound, but nonetheless, they're doing it away from the nickel defender. I've got them doing it 3 times in this game, and we appeared to be targeting that coverage by putting the tight end, running back, and a third receiver, in this case, the third receiver being Zay Flowers, into the boundary, eliciting this coverage from them. And early on, we really hit them big. I didn't see us go back to this that often. If you're interested in what I'm saying when I say busted cover 3, you got man turn here, zone, 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 zone turn there by that corner clearly, and you got a zone relationship. Otherwise, if he's playing man, he's beat very badly, which he's not. It's cover 3 technique for him. And this is middle of the field safety technique. So you've got a man to the bottom side that you would normally get to the backside of a 3-by-1. Seen this type of stuff before, but not usually when you have a tight end with the speed and catching ability of Isaiah Likely, someone who can actually be a threat over there to the boundary. If that tight end was Pat Ricard and you wanted to treat him like someone who wasn't going to run a vertical down the seam, no problem. This seems to be a designed play that the Ravens picked in a particular instance because they had a feeling the coverage they were going to get from the Colts, and in this situation they were right. Fast forwarding to overtime, and there's a reason for this. Likely was wide open on the previous play, made the catch. First of all, this is a sick throw by Lamar. When you really see this, I mean, look, this ball may be there an eighth of a second too late. And I don't even want to use the word too late. It could be there an eighth of a second earlier, but it's not late. But look at the delivery here. This is, I don't know that he has to throw it sidearm. I will show you the end zone angle here in a moment. But this is cover 2 zone, by the way, in overtime. So to show you that you had similar coverages being used early, in the middle part of the game, and late. Now, there was times when Gus Bradley chose to bring pressure, and that clearly did have an impact. But I was trying to show you zone coverages early in the game, and zone coverage is still being used late. It's not like there was wholesale changes throughout the game in the Colts defensive game plan that we couldn't exploit. I think we just had little parts of our offense that were bleeding one cut at a time. And in the end, it ended up being one cut too many. That was a huge drop. The very next play was the quite obvious defensive pass interference penalty against Zay Flowers. Okay, this is one of the attempts, I think, where Lamar is he's actually looking away as he catches the ball. Sorry for that. You can see he looks to the left. I'll rewind it again. Right as he's catching the ball, he looks to the left, and I think he's just trying to hold those guys for a minute, because he's probably being coached up and told, hey, wherever you're looking, these guys are flying. And I think there is an opportunity, not that Lamar misses it, but for later on in the progression for Duve. I think he's backside on a slant here. I think it's Duve on this play. If we were to ever to get to the point where we were looking to one side for a moment and we knew we could come back, we have opportunities to exploit some of this stuff. I think it's really a Tampa 2, and this linebacker is looking for someone to go vertical to run with in a Tampa 2. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. But it's a sick throw by Lamar. Sidearm delivery, likely just drops it. I think it's well placed. I don't think he could have really gone over there and handed it to him any better. When I'm talking about Tampa 2, now this is a flat release by this guy, so actually seeing it now, it doesn't look like there's any depth gained by him at all. So this could just be, I personally would not coach linebackers to just depend on the quarterback's eyes, because we face quarterbacks that would look you off post-snap and get you going one way and then come back to this type stuff here. We'd like to develop opportunities like that, but look, this ball was put in Likely's hands. It's a play that's there to be made. I think it gives us an opportunity. Let's see if he catches this ball on the 39 or something. We've got a new set of downs, 38, a new set of downs to get more yards and put Justin Tucker in position to win the game. Quite obviously a great throw by Lamar. All right, rewinding time, second possession, same formation. Now, I think what we have done is put the running back to the field and then bring him over to the boundary. Same thing that you saw on the catch by Likely. Tight end up the seam, Z receiver up the seam, running back release out into the flats, pulls this safety up, and basically we would call it a busted cover 3, where you're playing man to one side and everybody else is playing zone. That is typical when you get the backside of 3-by-1 formations where you only have 2 eligible receivers there. In this case, we've got 3. They're either disrespecting our tight ends, which I doubt because we've hit them twice now on this, by the second possession. So clearly this was an element that was involved in the game plan for the Ravens, and we were executing it. Lamar was seeing it, throwing the ball on time. I think you even got a little bit of a look off on that play there. All right, third possession. This is the 3rd and 4. I mean, Patrick McCarry is a really good football player. He just had a great week the week before against Trey Hendrickson. This is Ebukam, who is a speed rusher generally. From the 20 or 22 rushes I had seen prior to this game, film from last year and film from this year, his best move is a speed rush. And this is what beats us. It's surprising to me that McCarry has beat this badly. It's a sack that really short-circuited things. Do we have anything developing over here? No, we don't. We've got a lot of contact with our receiver, and we're not able to get free from it. Ends up being a strip sack. Luckily, we recover it, and we get to punt. The problem is, on the very next possession, we end up with a fumble that the Colts recover. Now, for this one, I'm not a huge fan of... I forget what the guy's name is, QB School. He played in the NFL, so I should, remember his name. But, he called it one time meshy. Something like, a little similar to mesh, but somewhat offbeat. there's a little bit of a element of mesh here. You've got Bateman underneath. You've got Andrews on a little bit deeper, but I wouldn't call that a mesh under route. And then Zay Flowers, possibly being underneath in the middle of the field between the hashes. I would say you've got a quarters split field coverage here. What I mean by that is this corner released Flowers inside to this safety, whereas over here to the top side, Andrews was the number one receiver, and this corner took him man. So you've got what I would say is two different half field coverage calls, one to the left and one to the right. These are the kinds of things that I don't want to say confuse Lamar or other quarterbacks. These are the types of things that cause quarterbacks a little extra element of pause when they're getting ready to throw the football because they don't know exactly who is assigned to, because you've got two different coverages, one to the offense's left and one to the offense's right. And when you get this mesh stuff, you're not sure how to sift this out because you've got the safety coming down on Zay Flowers' route, the corner trailing with Andrews. I think when you get the end zone angle, you'll see that Lamar is waiting for the window to open or maybe throw it a little bit before it opens as Zay Flowers is coming over the top of Andrews' route. I'm not a huge fan of these three routes being stacked on top of each other, even though in a mesh you would get that. You could take a still shot. I'm not a huge fan of taking still shots and evaluating pass plays, but in this case, the timing and the staggered nature of them is different from mesh, in my opinion, because mesh, the two underneath drags cross over at the same level, and then you have the sit route that sits at the second level. In this case, you've got three guys across basically three different levels. I would say almost like a traffic jam where you've got multiple cars and no one can figure out who should turn first. End zone angle, I'll give it to you. And I think you can see the pause that is created in Lamar there. Clearly looks to the left, comes back to the right. I think he's reading this linebacker here, running with Bateman, and thinking about throwing this thing over the top of him. And for whatever reason, I think maybe his peripheral vision catches this guy and is worried about trying to stick this throw in here to Andrews. Pump fakes, and then the pressure gets to him. Forced fumble, strip sack. Whose fault is it? I don't know. But I think it's an example of how the coverage, the split field coverage nature, can force a quarterback to have a little bit of pause. And I think to relate this to the Ravens defense, I think that's why you see so many checkdowns by Joe Burrow, because he goes through that same decision-making process that I just tried to illustrate to you, maybe unsuccessfully, and ends up just saying, let me just take the check down really quickly and not mess with all that trash that I don't know how it's going to sort out. There's probably a way better football explanation than I just gave. All right, 3rd and 7, heavy pressure by the Colts. And I think you see a little bit of an example here of the pressure being late. Maybe this isn't a great hide by the Colts, but trying to use this to illustrate that teams are not always showing the sticks blitz zero look, but that's what this is. Post snap, that's what this is. This is eyes on the quarterback, eyes on the quarterback. All eyes are on the quarterback. Heavy pressure, reacting to the first place he looks to throw, because there's not going to be much time to do it. To look in another direction. Hopefully I said that the way to make sense. So this is an example of them going away from the zone schemes that they had been using, cover 2 zone, cover 3. That one I thought was kind of Tampa 2-ish, but I really think the linebacker didn't get enough depth to be a Tampa 2 type guy. And then the busted cover 3, which is mostly zone, but man to that one to the side where there's 2 receivers, but they're essentially playing it like the backside of zone. All right, this looks like I got a spelling error there. This I originally thought was a better thrown ball than this. When you get the end zone angle, you'll see Lamar just doesn't put this in a spot. Brents is playing this well. I mean, you can see Brents' feet are stacked on top of Andrews, but Andrews also slows up because the ball is thrown somewhat behind him. I think Lamar's got an opportunity to put this ball in a better place than we do. But Brent's played a pretty good game and did a pretty nice job, if you ask me. I think conceptually we've also got the opportunity to get the ball up top. You've got Flowers on the out. I think you've got a clear out up here. and then Duve is stacking this over to the same side as the clear out, essentially flood concept. Duve runs over top of the safety who goes after Flowers. Now, there's something to be said for this later on. Is this safety jumping Flowers because we throw the ball to him so quickly? That's kind of a simplistic look at it, and you guys know I don't like to look at it simplistically. I like to analyze it as much as possible. You know, but that is an opportunity there to come backside later on. 9th possession. This is a great job by Lamar. We've really put them in run-pass conflict here because we've ran the ball successfully on this possession earlier. I think Lamar comes back to his third look here. But watch this linebacker, I think Franklin, come downhill and then turn back because he realizes he's got the wrong read. At this point, like, dude, you're go. That's what we would teach him. You're at the line. You see an open window. If you're trying to rob a house, you go through an open window, go. But in any case, Lamar is looking right after the play fake. I think comes back to possibly hit Ricard down here. Saw him covered as well. You got to have time to do this. Boom. Now, there's a lot to be said for that. Sometimes as a defensive coordinator, you see stuff like this and you say, okay, I can't give him that much time because look what he can do with time. And that's part of the reason why teams are choosing pressure at certain situations to remove Lamar's ability to do these things and remove his ability to scramble. 9th possession, heavy pressure kind of shown a little bit earlier. Big hit by Brents. Again, these guys are looking at the quarterback. They know the ball's got to get delivered quickly. Look at Gus up to the top side. This is not me saying, hey, Lamar should throw the ball up there. That's stupid talk where people think that a quarterback can see the whole field at the same time. Lamar knows he doesn't have time to look to a second place. There's got to be a way that at some point we can exploit some of this stuff that people do, whereby they're reacting as soon as Lamar looks in one direction because they know there's no time to come back to it. Until we solve these issues, we're going to continue to see these things at certain points throughout games. All right, so that's my look at the Ravens pass game. Was it terrible throughout? No. We had small mistakes in certain situations where we needed to be better. And I think the Colts did a nice job of showing some cover 2 zones, some cover 3, some split field coverage calls, even though I only showed you one and probably didn't do an excellent job of explaining it to you in the second place. But let me know what you think of how I showed some of the Ravens pass plays. There's so many possessions. I got 15 possessions in this game. I recorded this one about midnight Monday night. So get to the rest of the pass game probably Tuesday afternoon. If you guys are interested, let me know what you think of the breakdown in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy, maybe enjoy in air quotes, this breakdown, because certainly it doesn't end up being complimentary of all of our players in the end, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.